We had a chance to fly the EP Falcon. Rob, you did the build on this model. You took some notes and you took some pictures. Do you want to go down through your tips and tricks list with us?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll start off with the offset aileron servo arm. I had to do two things to that. I had to ream the center hole to fit the spindle on the servo horn. And then I also had to drill the holes for the control rods out to 46 thousandths to match the rods. They were a little tight.
Okay.
Using the 3114 servos that are recommended for this plane, you'll also find that the battery tray on the undermount of the wing for the ailerons is a little tight. So we had to enlarge that a little bit. Also, on the same aileron servos, or the control rods, when you want to snip off the excess rod coming through, because you're going to find it's going to bind on the control horn a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Also, the elevator, I had to drill that out for 46 thousandths. All the control horns seemed a little tight. No big deal. Just drill them out a little bit, give yourself a little more clearance room. The last thing I did was not a step in the instructions. It's not required, but it helps out tremendously. Whenever you're dealing with a foam plane like this, one of the hardest things when you have to remove the wing is to try to hold the wing and disconnect the servo lead for the ailerons. What I did, and this plane lent itself to this modification, was I took the extension, the servo extension, and I glued it to the back of the battery tray with some CA. And what that allows you to do is take this wing off with one arm then, and then pop the servo lead off.
Oh, okay, the back of the servo tray.
The servo tray, yes. I'm sorry, servo tray, yeah. And it allows you to pop that servo lead off without trying to require three hands to do it.
Yeah, that was handy when we went out and flew. I noticed that it was just so simple. I thought that was part of the actual instructions, or I made a mental note of it, so that's a good tip.
No, it kind of lent itself to it, so it's a nice idea. Take a couple minutes to do it, you'll thank yourself.
Yeah, that's great. Let's go ahead and jump into the 5x5 review.
Sure.
On the model characteristics, first thing's build as advertised. You give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 out of 5, mainly because this is an ARF, and a lot of times there are modifications to be made to an ARF.
It's kind of like a builder's ARF, it sounds like.
It is,
some of the little mods you did, that would come second nature for
anybody who's got a couple under their belt, yeah.
Right. Next thing is finish. You gave it 4 out of 5 on finish.
It's a foamy.
Foamy syndrome.
Foamy's damage easy, so you're just going to want to be careful handling it. It's susceptible to hanger rash and such.
More porous surface on the fuselage, things like that. Next thing is power. You gave it a 5 out of 5 on power.
Yeah, now we've dealt with these Rimfire 250s a few times, and we've been really impressed with them, especially in this airframe. I think it's a perfect match. You'll notice on our flying, we were in a tighter gym. A lot of times you spend as much time trying to get yourself out of a situation as you do just flying around.
Right.
The 250 had plenty of punch for that.
Yeah, it definitely came in handy. We were flying, we had 6 basketball hoops hanging down.
Yeah.
And the ones on the sides were, it felt like they were 4 feet off the ground.
They were, yeah.
So you're flying underneath them a lot of times, and you have to quickly bank, cut, and get out of trouble.
Yeah,
the 250 was fantastic.
And you don't find yourself getting in stall situations that you shouldn't be because of lack of power or anything. Yeah,
no, I absolutely agree. Next thing is ground handling. Go to 5 out of 5 on ground handling.
Yeah, this thing drives like a car. Excellent takeoff roll, excellent landing. Very, very stable. Very easy to keep tracking straight.
Yep, except for the squeaky wheel.
Well, it's got to have some sound system to it.
We build it exactly as the instructions say, so we don't do any modifications beyond what the instructions tell us, unless it's necessary to get it off the ground.
Sure.
Like Rob had mentioned. But
you'd want to oil the wheel. It is pretty squeaky.
Yeah, it's kind of gave it some personality, though. Yeah. Now, durability, the last thing in model characteristics, 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, the reason that scored what it did was we had a situation with the nose wheel. There's a plywood plate that's mounted inside the fuselage behind the motor that holds the steerable nose wheel, and I probably should have modified this when I was doing the build. I noticed it felt just a little bit weak, but that's inherent with this type of construction when you've got plywood glued to foam. Yeah, and we had a little situation where the nose came down, and it wasn't a hard hit, but it punched that firewall loose of the glue.
I was surprised it popped as far as much away as it did when we landed.
And it wasn't that hard hit.
No, it really wasn't. But it was a hard hit, mind
exactly.
you, but not what you'd consider a desirable landing every time. But we were playing around with stall characteristics, and we were trying to bring in and got a little too far into the stall, so it came.
So take a couple minutes during the build to strengthen that glue joint up. You're going to want to run a couple beads of glue there and let it dry.
Probably good advice, like you said, during the build process.
Just be careful.
You get out there.
It's real easy to add nose weight to these too, so you don't want to put too much glue in the nose, or you're going to be finding yourself messing with the CG. All right, Kerr, you flew this more than I did actually that night, so let's get into the pilot experience. Flight is advertised. We got 5 out of 5.
This is listed as not as a trainer per se, but the advertisement says a plane that taught thousands of milers to fly. It was and always has been used as a trainer years ago, and now with it being EPP foam and an electric current version, you have the expectation it's going to be docile and easy. Now, we have the undercamber wing, we have ailerons. You and I were both kind of like, how quickly is that thing going to want to roll on us? How quickly is it going to want to fall off center with those ailerons? It was fantastic. It was extremely docile. It was very, very predictable. Had very easy, forgiving stall characteristics, and you could bring it in almost like just like a simulator. Just play around with a tail-heavy landing, and just bring it in and ride on the tail wheel for a while, and bring it down if you want to. Just an absolute blast and a joy to fly at slow speeds, which makes it a fantastic.
And I noticed the stall brake is pretty much straightforward on this.
Yeah,
you're not getting a tip stall.
Didn't roll over too bad at all. It was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty straight.
Yep. Flight time. Now, we did indoor flying. We gave it a 5 out of 5. I was really impressed with what we got out of this 300 milliamp battery.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. I think for indoor flying, the 300 milliamp is fantastic. If I had it outdoors and I was just getting into the throttle a lot more, I may jump up to a 400 plus milliamp battery. I think based on what we experienced from a CG standpoint, it has a very forgiving CG.
Yes, it does.
We ran CG forward a little bit when we first started flying just to give it the benefit of the doubt. And then as we got more comfortable with it on that first flight, we moved it back to center or balance CG and even a little bit aft, and it's a blast. Tail gets a little bit heavy on you.
What you'll find is, with Kurt mentioning the CG back, what you'll find on these smaller foamies too, especially in a tight area, is you want, normally the tail dragging a little bit is not a good characteristic.
Well, it wants to fall off.
Exactly, but in this particular incident, in this situation, we noticed that actually aided in us getting around that jam a little quicker.
Absolutely, it gave you a little more thrust vectoring, thrust control off of that nose with generous control surfaces. I mean, those ailerons go all the way to the root. So
now this was mostly rudder flying too.
Well, yeah, it was heavy rudder flying. Yeah, because you're inside, you want to keep those turns as flat as possible. So it was a lot of aileron rudder management to keep it nice and flat. But it didn't feel bad. It didn't want to peel off of it. If you noticed, it didn't want to fall off the high side when you were going through the turns.
Exactly.
You gave it a little extra rudder. It'd start to crab on you, and then just a little bit of aileron would keep it nice and flat through those turns. So it was a real joy to fly. Real joy.
Field size, we've got a small park, large gymnasium.
Larger gymnasium, like a full high school gymnasium, it's perfect, or sports field, indoor sports field, if you have like soccer field or something like that close by. Perfect place to fly it there. Or a park. I think it's going to be a blast.
Oh, it would be great.
On calmer days.
Yeah, I can't wait to get it outside and see what it'll do, really. Portability, we gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Now, you know, as foam syndrome again, this plane damage is easy. The tail surfaces are fragile. Just getting it in and out of your car, it's going to be very easy to damage, so you're going to want to be careful.
Yeah, it's funny. We've had the rubber band fastening wing designs for years and billet balls, so years and years. And when you take it to these foams, you've got to be careful. Like you said, it'll bind on the ailerons really easy. The rubber bands will, so it's just not quite as portable as a build-up ball setting, similar size.
And this doesn't give you the option of crisscrossing the rubber bands, which helps a lot of time because you have the bubble canopy there. So. All right, skill level. We've got it marked as beginner. I think that's right on.
It truly is a beginner plane. It's if you've got a little bit of simulator time, if you've never flown before, you're going to benefit from having somebody on a buddy box or buddy cable or wireless trainer system for a first-time flight. But this is a true trainer. It's a great trainer plane. It has great stall characteristics. It's solid as a rock. It has great. It's a good rudder trainer. For nice flat turns. It's forgiving enough to be able to allow you to learn that you need to counter with those ailerons a little bit. So right on the money as a trainer as an EP variant. I think it's a fantastic solution.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, that wraps up our review of the EP Falcon. You can go to our website and look at the full page review out there. If you have any questions that remain unanswered, in the lower left corner of every screen on our website, there's an Ask To icon. Click on that. It'll send us a message and we'll get right back with you. I'm Kurt with Two Brothers Hobby.
And I'm Rob. Thanks for watching.